We are still part of a system that has waged war for profit, destroying life, creating more insecurity and instability, not just in the Middle East, but for all of us. Member states like the US, Israel, and others who have been plotting to transform this genocide into a lucrative endeavor is that they need to pay reparation. Capitalism and markets that know no rules, that are able to sustain themselves and keep citizens embroiled into criminal activities, even when the crimes are ostentatious, in the name of profits, hidden by the claim of neutrality. Now Palestine is the next defining moment that needs to lead to accountability. If not now, when? And if not us pushing for this change, who?
Just 2 days after I sat down with Francesca Albanese, she was placed under sanctions by the Trump administration. They accuse her of waging economic warfare against the United States and against US companies. She says these sanctions are just mafia-style intimidation techniques, and she vows to continue her work to remind states of their legal obligations to punish and stop genocide and hold those who benefit from it accountable. So why has the United States taken such a drastic move? Well, it has everything to do with a scathing report that Albanese has just published, and that was titled The Economy of Genocide. This is my interview with Francesca Albanese. Welcome to the Big Picture Podcast. My name is Mohammed Hassan, and today we are joined by Francesca Albanese. She is the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territories. Francesca, welcome to the Big Picture.
Thank you for having me.
We are speaking just a few days after you published an explosive report that singles out more than 60 corporations that you accuse of sustaining and profiting off Israeli occupation, apartheid, and genocide. Some of these companies include Google, Amazon, Hyundai, Booking.com, and the bank Barclays. These are strong accusations, and they are leveled at companies that many of us interact with, use on a day-to-day basis. Why these companies, and why now?
Let me take a step back, because if this report were to be read as a list of incriminated companies, I would have failed. What my report tries to do is, and this is what I came to realize is the main problem which led me to write the report the way it's written, is to expose a system which has allowed the occupation to thrive over the decades instead of being dismantled as it should. So if the occupation, which has now turned genocidal against the Palestinian people, has not been dismantled, yes, it's because there is Israel's unrelinquished territorial ambition over what remains of Palestine. Yes, because there is an ideology that has infected many, including young people in Israel. Yes, because there is an Orientalist / racist component in some Western countries that see, as it was said recently, Israel doing the dirty job of all of us, which is, this deserves a discussion, but also on its own. But there is also the fact that many businesses are profiting from it. And so I exposed an economy of occupation made of companies sustaining the displacement and the replacement of the Palestinian, the displacement through the destruction of their livelihood and living space through weaponry and dual-use materials like bulldozers and other construction-related machinery that has been used to demolish homes, to uproot orchards, and then this machinery coupled with surveillance to create a system of segregations made of walls, checkpoints, and fences that have contained the Palestinians in a space where they could be controlled, meanwhile, and voila, the other pillar, the replacement pillar, could fester, which means that, for example, companies have built cities and villages for Israeli Jewish citizens only, the settlers, and this means homes, infrastructure, electric grid, water grid, power plants, roads, rails. And then there has been the extractivism using the quarries, the water, the other natural resources, including fossil fuel and oil offshore Gaza. And then there has been the industry of goods and service production, dates, Dead Sea products, wine, and other products that are sold into the market. And of course, there is also the tourism industry, so the supply chain. So you see, everything is intertwined. And these two pillars would have not been sustained themselves without a network of enablers, meaning banks, pension funds, other financial institutions, and universities and charities. Everything in this network has helped lend legitimacy, credibility, and funds to Israel to maintain this economy of occupation. And, I could have written this report 10 years ago. It would have already been valid. But today, not only we have a legal framework that makes any 100% clear, crystal clear, that any engagement with the occupation is unlawful, because we have criminal proceedings for genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity against either the state of Israel or Israeli officials. But also we have an ICJ advisory opinion which draws not the red line, really a highway, I say, that separates what you can do from what you cannot do. And engaging with an unlawful occupation, which the court has ordered to be dismantled totally and unconditionally, because it violates the right of self-determination, it leads to annexation of occupied territory and permanent occupation, entails a number of other ancillary human rights violations and crimes, meaning pillages, encouraging forced displacement, sustaining extrajudicial killings. And this is what companies and the private sector are embroiled with. And this is the economy that has shifted from occupation to genocidal in the last 20 months. So this is what my report is about. And the companies that are listed there, are mentioned there, are just illustrative of how unlawful and dangerous, how intertwined into this criminal design the private sector is.
And you mentioned in the report that you have reached out to 45 of these companies and 15 of them responded. The 15 that responded, what did they say to the accusations that you leveled against them and their business practices? Yeah,
look, I wouldn't necessarily frame them as accusation. What I have done is that I've put on notice 48 entities, private entities. As I said, this also entails charities, so-called charities, or pension funds and universities. So 18 of them eventually, including after the submission of the report, have replied. The majority of them didn't engage. Those who have engaged have either denied the facts, because I brought to their knowledge facts that I gave them an opportunity to challenge or to correct, and then I also offered the legal analysis. Per each company, I wrote a different ad hoc legal analysis. And so to this, they responded either in denial or by saying that I was misinterpreting the law, or very few trying to engage bona fide, I mean, in good faith with me, a couple. But eventually, I would, because they really wanted me to take out their names from the report, which I would have been open to consider had I seen an opening, a written commitment, they would have disengaged. And this was not the case, and so eventually the report came public.
And so all of them, all 18, came back and said that, in a nutshell, no, we're not changing our business practices.
No, but it's interesting the way they function. It's interesting the way either they do not understand or they pretend not to want to understand, because they say, look, but we just provide this small component. I mean, we cannot be held responsible for the crimes that you say Israel is committing. But look, here's the thing. companies are bound by due diligence, normally. In a situation of conflict, they have to observe a heightened due diligence. The situation in the occupied Palestinian territory is not just one of conflict, it's one where, and it's been documented for decades now, all the companies I've engaged with are companies that have been put on notice. Some of them are even in the UN database that the Office of the High Commission for Human Rights published and has updated over the years. So they know, they stay where they are with intent and knowledge, intent and purpose. And the argument that they do not contribute to violations because eventually they cannot be held responsible for what Israel does. Now it's untenable because as of January 2024, there noticed that Israel might plausibly commit genocide. There are visible, evident, documented war crimes and crimes against humanity, and like starvation. So there is a lawful ecosystem where the due diligence would imply that they can use their leverage to correct the violation. For example, a company building roads and say, well, I'm not engaging with you if you keep on maintaining your infrastructure in the occupied Palestinian territory. And these would not spare them from scrutiny if their leverage was, proved useless or ineffective, which is the case. Not only they are not using their leverage, but it's not the context in which leverage from a private entity can work. Also, what the report exposes is that we need to stop using the fiction of the good Israel inside Israel proper and the bad Israel within the colonies. Because the colonies are not a standalone crime. They are a crime that serves Israel's interest, that serves to acquire land, acquire control over Palestinian natural resources, and while also repressing the Palestinians politically, economic, frustrating the right of self-determination. So it's the state which commits the crimes. The paradox is like today, imagine to be today 30 plus years ago in the face of apartheid South Africa. Shall we disengage from apartheid South Africa or no? Of course we should. Now we know we have to. And why? Not because of apartheid South Africa committing crimes inside, within the Bantustan, but for apartheid South Africa maintaining the Bantustan and an apartheid regime against the non-white. And the same thing is to be done today, all the more because apartheid Israel has gone as far as apartheid South Africa has never dared doing. Israel is committing a genocide, or plausibly a genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity. This is the time to impose sanctions and cut ties with Israel. This is not a demand that comes from Palestinian civil society, international, global civil society. But many Israelis I've engaged with keep on asking why there are no sanctions. Because of political alliances, but also because I do think many people have not understood how deeply entrenched we all are with Israeli crimes. And not only Israeli crimes, because I think that today we see that there are many Western states and also some Arab states who are actively sustaining what Israel is doing. So, and if Palestine was a crime scene, today it would show the fingerprints of all of us. Palestine is a revealer that is showing us how intertwined we are. And because we are intertwined, we need to use our individual and collective power to change this. This is a defining moment in history as South Africa, the end of apartheid South Africa has been and what has led to that. And when it comes to the business sector, the standards we have come from two main historical developments. The end of apartheid South Africa, which led to the development of the guiding principles on business and human rights. And before then, the post-Holocaust and industrialist trials that led to scrutinize businesses and arms manufacturers for what they had done to the Jewish people and others during the Holocaust. Now Palestine is the next defining moment that needs to lead to accountability. If not now, when? And if not us pushing for this change